Hello and welcome to the show. Today we're diving headfirst into the cesspool of international diplomacy, or at least what's left of it. Over the next 10 excruciatingly long yet strangely compelling chapters, we'll be taking a long, hard look at the top 10 allies who started eyeing the US like a questionable gas station sushi platter. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to embark on a wild ride through the wreckage of international relations. First up on our hit parade of diplomatic disasters, we have Germany. Germany, the land of beer, bratwurst, and a deep-seated fear of being invaded by Russia. Now Germany and the US, they go way back. They've been through a lot together, mostly thanks to, well, you know, the whole World War II thing, but despite their complicated past, they've managed to build a pretty solid relationship over the years. That is, until Trump took office and decided that Germany was both a freeloading moocher and an economic threat. He constantly berated them for not spending enough on NATO, slapped tariffs on their steel and aluminum exports, and basically treated Angela Merkel, a woman who could stare down Putin without blinking, like an incompetent intern. Germany, understandably, was not thrilled. They began deepening their ties with China, cozying up to Russia, and generally distancing themselves from the US, like it had suddenly developed a bad case of diplomatic halitosis. Germany's drift away from the US has left a gaping hole in the transatlantic alliance. Their absence from the table weakens NATO, emboldens Russia, and generally makes the world a more unstable place. Next up, we travel north of the border to Canada, a country so polite they apologize for apologizing. But beneath that veneer of maple syrup sweetness lies a steely resolve, especially when dealing with their southern neighbor. Canada and the US have a special relationship built on shared values and economies. But Trump gave Canada a run for their money. First, there were the tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. Trump claimed it was a matter of national security, as if Canada, whose most lethal export is Justin Bieber, was about to launch a surprise attack with maple syrup bombs. Then came the NAFTA renegotiation debacle. Trump bullied Canada and Mexico into renegotiating it, only to end up with a deal that was basically NAFTA 2.0. The most damaging aspect was the erosion of trust. Canada began to question their relationship with the US and looked for other partners. Bonjour, mes amis, and welcome to France, the land of baguettes berets, and a certain je ne sais quoi that makes you want to simultaneously roll your eyes and surrender to their effortless chic. Now, France and the US, they have a long and storied history, dating back to the American Revolution, when France, bless their little hearts, decided to back the scrappy underdog against their arch-nemesis, Great Britain. But even the most seasoned diplomats would have struggled to navigate the minefield that was the Trump-Macron relationship. Macron, a staunch defender of multilateralism and the Paris Climate Agreement, which Trump of course pulled out of, became a vocal critic of Trump's policies. French public opinion of the US plummeted during the Trump years. They strengthened their ties with China, reached out to Russia, and generally acted like a country that was no longer content to play second fiddle to a superpower that seemed hell-bent on self-sabotage. Chapter 4, the United Kingdom, Special Relationship on Life Support. Right then, let's pop over to the UK, shall we? Land of tea, crumpets, and a truly baffling obsession with beans on toast. The US and the UK call their relationship special, which is adorable, in a slightly codependent way. They've been through thick and thin together, from fighting Nazis to invading Iraq. But the Trump era put the special relationship through the ringer. Trump and then Prime Minister Theresa May never quite clicked. Then came Boris Johnson, who made Trump look like a model of diplomacy. Trump's erratic behavior left the UK feeling increasingly isolated. The result? The UK started hedging its bets. Chapter 5, Japan. From Kizuna to Sayonara, Konnichiwa, and welcome to Japan, the land of the rising sun, bullet trains, and vending machines that dispense everything from hot ramen to used underwear. Now Japan and the US, they've got a complicated history, what with the whole World War II thing and the subsequent US occupation. But despite a past that would make a therapist reach for their strongest sedatives, they've managed to build a surprisingly strong alliance over the years. Trump slapped tariffs on Japanese steel and aluminum, threatened to do the same to their car industry, and generally treated Japan like an economic rival rather than a close ally. Trump repeatedly complained about the cost of basing US troops in Japan, suggested that Japan should pay more for their own defense, and even hinted that he might withdraw US forces altogether. They began to question the reliability of their longtime ally and started looking for ways to bolster their own defenses just in case the US decided to pack up and leave. Chapter 6: South Korea, caught in the crossfire of maximum pressure. Annyeonghaseyo, and welcome to South Korea, a country that's quickly becoming as famous for its K-pop and skincare routines as it is for its precarious geopolitical situation. Now, the US has been South Korea's protector for decades, a commitment that has, at times, been more brotherly love than tough love. But then Trump waltzed in, like a bull in a kimchi shop, and decided to handle things his way, which, as we've established, is rarely the right way. First, there was the whole fire and fury rhetoric, which, while undoubtedly entertaining for those of us watching from a safe distance, did little to reassure the South Koreans. Trump repeatedly complained about the cost of stationing US troops in South Korea, demanded that Seoul pay more for their upkeep, and even threatened to withdraw them altogether if he didn't get his way. They began to question the wisdom of relying so heavily on the US for their defense, and started exploring other options, including improving relations with North Korea and strengthening their own military capabilities. Chapter 7: Australia, mateship, tested by America first. G'day and welcome to Australia, the land of sunshine, shrimp on the Barbie, and a surprising number of things that can kill you. But despite all that, Australia has always been a loyal friend to the US, a relationship forged in the fires of World War II and cemented by shared values and a mutual love of, well, winning. It all started with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a trade agreement that Trump pulled out of on his first day in office, leaving Australia and a whole bunch of other countries high and dry. They began to question the reliability of their longtime ally and started looking for ways to diversify their diplomatic and economic relationships, just in case the US decided to go full isolationist. Chapter 8: Mexico, building walls, breaking bonds. Hola, and welcome to Mexico, a country with a rich history, vibrant culture, and the unfortunate distinction of being Donald Trump's favorite punching bag. From the moment he launched his presidential campaign with a racist tirade about Mexican immigrants, it was clear that US-Mexico relations were in for a bumpy ride. First, there was the wall. Remember that? The big beautiful wall that Mexico was going to pay for? Yeah, that never happened. But perhaps the most damaging aspect of Trump's Mexico policy was the erosion of trust. They began to question the value of their relationship with the US, and started looking for other partners who wouldn't treat them like a piñata to be whacked for political gain. Chapter 9: Turkey, from NATO, ally to awkward acquaintance. Merhaba, and welcome to Turkey, a country strategically located at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. A country with a rich history, beautiful scenery, and a government that's becoming increasingly authoritarian. Now, Turkey and the US, they go way back. They've been NATO allies for decades, partners in the fight against terrorism, and at times, sources of mutual frustration. But the relationship took a nosedive during the Trump era, plummeting faster than a Turkish lira in a currency crisis. Things went from bad to worse when Turkey decided to purchase a Russian-made S-400 missile defense system, a move that infuriated the US and led to sanctions being imposed on Turkey. They were asserting their independence, flexing their muscles and forging their own path, even if it meant cozying up to Russia, a country that the US views as a major threat. Chapter 10: Saudi Arabia, a bond built on oil and overlooking. Ahlan wa sahlan, and welcome to Saudi Arabia, the land of oil sand and a rather complicated relationship with human rights. Now, the US and Saudi Arabia, they go way back. They're like that couple that everyone knows is toxic, but somehow stays together, probably because one of them has a seemingly endless supply of black gold. The US has long turned a blind eye to Saudi Arabia's abysmal human rights record, its brutal war in Yemen, and its penchant for silencing dissent, all in the name of stability and, of course, oil. But even this transactional relationship, held together by the duct tape of realpolitik, came under strain during the Trump era. Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, his imposition of sanctions on Iran, and his general unpredictability made the Saudis nervous. They began to question the reliability of their longtime ally and started hedging their bets, reaching out to Russia and China, and even hinting that they might start selling their oil in other currencies besides the US dollar. Outro: the price of unpredictability. So, there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour of the wreckage of American foreign policy under Donald Trump. The world watched in a mix of horror and morbid fascination as he tweeted insults, slapped tariffs, and cozied up to dictators, all while claiming to be making America great again. The damage he inflicted on America's global reputation will take years, if not decades, to repair.